Today on Primetime Local News, I'm joined by Garth Rowswell, the Vermilion Lloydminster Wainwright MLA. Now, he's part of a group of 17 MLAs who signed a letter in opposition to the government of Alberta's decision to move back to stage one of the reopen plan. Now, Mr. Rowswell, first of all, can you kind of take us through the letter and then the decision for you to sign on to it?
Well, maybe I'll just give you a history of how we got here relative to it. As the restrictions came on, and we're coming out and saying, okay, keep up the good work. We're doing good work. We're progressing, or whatever. That was fine. But the complaints I was getting from people was, well, how do we know what we have to achieve in order to, become freer, right, and have less restrictions? And so we, that is stuff that we took to caucus, and that was fine. And then when they came out and put, well, here's the benchmarks, right? And that was really useful. If we attain these things, then good. And the response I got to that, people were quite happy with that. So if I obey the rules and I do this and we get to these numbers, then away we go. And what we discovered was, we started to progress. And then when we went to move some of the to different steps, it was a bit, they didn't go all the way from step one to step two originally. And then we had discussions about that. And then it was moved to that level, which was good. And then we went and we couldn't get to step three because cases were increasing. So I push back, and when people are complaining to me, it says, well, we're the hospitalizations are proper, the ICUs are proper, and saying, why didn't we do it? Well, that's because if you read the thing, it said, and it has to be decreasing, and it was actually increasing. So I could defend all of that. This next time that happened just now, we had hit the numbers. We weren't decreasing. Mm-hmm. But we weren't, there wasn't a massive increase either. And we went backwards. And the reason was there was these other factors that came in. So one of the complaints that I had gotten before was the moving of the goalposts and, okay, we'll just figure out something else in order to move it where we want to move it. And so, that was the disagreement that I had with kind of how we got to where we were. And I was explaining that to people locally, and then this opportunity for this letter came up, and I signed into it.
So clearly you're against the government's decision to move back to stage one and put in place more restrictions, but what would you have liked the government to do? Stay at the point that they were at, or would you even have wanted them to take away more restrictions? I
just wanted them to stick to the benchmarks that we had set. And that's pretty much what I was wanting. And it would have been nice, I think, also if we could have came out, even if we wanted to introduce these new factors, right? If we could have come out and said, okay, here's our concerns, here's the logic behind us. If we can work to get this down, and then we'll take a look at it a week from now, right? I'd have been more comfortable even with that. So that's kind of where my head was at, and why I felt comfortable signing on to it.
And so when you're having these discussions with the caucus and with the premier and other people, what are they saying back as the reasons why they needed to move back to step one?
Well, the cases were going up. The variant is more contagious, and they did a direct correlation between the number of cases you have and what winds up to be the case going into hospital. And that type of stuff. There's also the R number, the infection rate. Yeah. So that was a number that was there, but those weren't the benchmarks that we had set out on the path forward. So I would have liked that to have come out and said, well, here's some new things we're looking at. We're going to give it a week and go from there.
And obviously, this is a pretty extraordinary measure to have a significant member of the government caucus coming out publicly against government decisions. So how difficult was it to come out and make this public plea?
Well, it was hard, but the premier accepts, I don't want to call it dissension, but disagreement within his caucus. And in the past we had been we had brought, not we, I guess I and others, it wasn't a coordinated effort. We all had our own feelings about it. And you can tell by the number of people that signed it, it wasn't a majority of caucus, right? So we're in a minority, and all we've said is, look, we're going to continue, follow the policies, follow the rules. That's what we want. We're going to continue to lobby for the least possible restrictions, and the majority of the caucus feels differently than us. So it's okay to have disagreements. That's what democracy is kind of about, and we advocate or I do. I'll say me. I advocate to follow the rules. And we just saw what happened in Vermilion. You probably heard about the outbreak at the Lakeland College. And I just got some updated information on that. And that was, it happened because someone didn't follow the rules. And that puts, people that are following the rules really at a disadvantage. So, that's a concern that a lot of people have. So it's good to see that, that they're on top of it. And so, yeah, we're for following, I'm for following the rules, taking the measures that you need to take to try to limit spread. But if we're going to set benchmarks, we should stay to the benchmarks.